right, well, I'd like to welcome all the alums, current students, Xavier faculty and staff members, current former coaches and friends. And thank you all for joining us for the first ever Alumni Association webinar. I'd also like to welcome and thank our guest, Tim Boyle from the class of 2013. I got to know Tim throughout his time at Xavier, and I truly appreciate the friendship that we have built over the years. Tim is obviously an outstanding athlete, but beyond that, he's a great leader and a tremendous person who cares a great deal about the relationships in his life, including those that he built during his time at Xavier and throughout his journeys to the NFL. Tim, thanks again for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. And I would imagine that this would be a pretty busy time of year for you and your teammates out in Green Bay. On a separate note, I am very excited about the tremendous work of our Alumni Association. It's been a real pleasure working with Alumni Association President Brian Farrell from the class of 1986 and the leadership group that has been put in place. I'm looking forward to continue our work to strengthen the Xavier Alumni Network. And I'll now turn things over to Brian. Thanks again for joining. I hope you guys enjoy the night. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Greg, and thanks everybody for joining. This is our first speaker series, and when trying to figure out what kind of offerings we could give our robust Alumni Association, we have thousands of people. We figure that this does everything. It connects us, it brings us together, it allows us to share our accomplishments, our skill sets, our networks, our expertise, and it allows us to support each other. And in this particular space, it's about football and an interest. And we appreciate your joining, and it's very versatile. So we hope to make this a standard offering throughout the years. So enjoy.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for jumping on in. My name is Matthew Coyer, Xavier High School class of 2012, and been fortunate enough to play football with Tim for a really long time now, and see him play for the Green Bay Packers. So without further ado, Tim, really appreciate you jumping on in, and I really want to kick it over to you first. Allow everyone on the call, to learn a little bit more about you, where you're from, how you ended up playing football in the first place, and a little bit of your upbringing and everything.
Ooh, that's a big question. Where to start? Born October the 3rd of 1994, if we want to get that technical. But born and raised Middletown, moved to Middlefield short thereafter. Have two awesome parents. I know they're watching right now, and I have two sisters who I love so much. Ended up going to well, as Matt knows, we played youth ball together down in North Branford. Being from Middlefield, him being from Durham, we had that choice of either playing in town or going to North Branford, and we decided to stay in North Branford and made some great memories and won a lot of games there. And decided to go to Xavier, and honestly, one of the best choices of my life. And as you kind of progress, you think back to UConn and then transferring to EKU, and how it all kind of set me up to this point in my life right now, which I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky to be where I'm at, and obviously still to be in the playoffs, and to be able to have this week off because it's a bye week is incredible. So happy to be here, guys. I appreciate you guys having me, and I look forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And how'd you start playing football? Were you just a general athlete playing a bunch of different sports? And really, when was it then you said this is really the sport for me?
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, I was always a three-sport athlete growing up. I think most athletes were, back then, because of the baseball, basketball, football. I played soccer for a few years, but I didn't really like it, so I moved on. But I've always liked football a little bit more. I always liked the hitting, number one. I was never a physical player, but I enjoyed the hitting and being able to go out there and hit someone and not get in trouble or get arrested, and that whole aspect of football. And I think I started realizing that I was a decent thrower probably when I was in fifth or sixth grade. I was able to have a little bit more on it than most other quarterbacks in that age group. But thankfully, we had a lot of good years down in North Branford, and I was able to kind of develop my skills under a good team, and it gave me the confidence I needed to get into Xavier.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that we'll talk about, right? Is you've absolutely had a lot of different successes in your football career, really in the entire time that, you and I played together, and then, going into, the college and the pros as well. I think it's definitely has set you up for success, right? And here we are, we made it through 2020 and ready to be the #1 seed. And so, that leads us all right into Xavier, right? So how was it that you you ended up going to Xavier and, kind of some of the things that, drove you to go to that school.
Yeah. So my local church that we go to as a family, there was the priest there was Father Greg Galvin, and he was the head, I want to say, hockey coach at the time. And I would obviously get to know him because I was an altar boy. So I got to know him very well. And obviously him being a big Xavier guy, I always knew about Xavier. But I was always going to go to Coggins, like yourself, Matt. And, as I kind of went into 7th and 8th grade, I decided kind of back and forth. I was always going to go Coggins and I was going to go Xavier. And it was, I had the conversation with my parents, and I think, the academics obviously and the athletics are much better than the choice that I would have had back in the day at Coggins. And that's just a choice that we decided to make, the three of us, and we pulled the trigger on Xavier, took the exam, and the rest is history.
Awesome. And so, talk a little bit, non-football related stuff with Xavier. Like what were some of the things that, you enjoyed and some of the best experiences you had at Xavier outside of just, the actual, football portion of it?
Yeah. The number one thing that stands out is the relationships. I met my best friends to this day at Xavier, and just the memories of having class with those guys and being able to have that camaraderie of just guys, and you're able to kind of connect through that bond. Coming in early, having my dad drop me off early when I was a freshman, and, I ate cookies in the morning with all the guys. And it's just that camaraderie, that bonding, those memories that you make are, going to last a lifetime. But obviously the academics, it set me up perfectly. I mean, I obviously had a great structure going into college. I knew how to study. Xavier taught me how to do those things. But the number one thing that stands out, obviously, barring athletics, was just the relationships that I still have. Even when I go back now, I mean, just seeing everyone's so happy to see me. I'm happy to see everyone else, and it's just there's a lot of love, and there's a lot of great relationships and good love and positivity in that building.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're really fortunate as alums, right, to be a part of, the Xavier community. And they've done a tremendous job since we've left of really trying to build up the brand and everything. And a big person, a part of that for everyone on the call now is Matthew Conyers. So Matt Conyers, I'll kick it over to you for a little bit. He's the director of communications here and really does a fantastic job. So for everyone that follows social media and the website and really anything external communication wise, Matt's really your go-to guy. And, we want to thank him as well for joining the Xavier community and really being a part of everything that's going on here.
Thank you, Matt. You read the script I wrote for you perfectly, so I really appreciate that. Spot on. Tim, you and I have talked a lot about beyond just the lessons you learned at Xavier on the football field, but the lessons you learned in the classroom. I'm curious, before we jump on the football field discussion, what are the lessons you still go back to today? And I mean, as you're going apart, this part of the journey for you, what are the things you look back on and you remember from Xavier and kind of try and utilize now in Green Bay?
Yeah, I think the one thing that sticks out is just the stick-to-itiveness. It's you have an objective, you have a completion date, whatever it is, whether it was academics or athletics. You had this mission and you stuck to it, and that's something that I learned at Xavier. In my previous interviews, I said that I learned how to win at Xavier, and that's true on the field and in the classroom. That's honestly truthful. I mean, I graduated with a good GPA. I felt like it projected me into college the right way. So, I mean, I feel it definitely got me ready, but the thing that sticks out to me is definitely the stick-to-itiveness of having to get the job done, making sure that there are no excuses and you get the job done, you do it well.
I'm obviously not an alum, but one thing I hear in every discussion with alum is trying to live that mission. When you hear that phrase, what does it represent to you now with the perspective that you have, having gone through everything?
Mm-hmm. Being a man like Christ, obviously the saying that we have, and that I said it when I was in high school, but I didn't think I truly understood. And as I grow older, I'm 26 years old now. How I kind of view that now, and what Xavier was kind of teaching me in the moment that I necessarily didn't know, was it's be a good person, be loving, do nice things, and spread love and positivity in this world. And what better example than Jesus Christ? Exactly. So what we said in the moment was spot on, and I take it to heart today, making sure that I'm passing along, I'm working with young guys, whether it be on the football field or I'm having conversations with people who I care about and I want to see succeed. But I think it's all a matter of, being a good person and putting yourself last and putting people first.
Tim, you had a lot of great mentors on the football side of the field, and one of them's on the call and introduced you earlier. But I'm curious, what about the mentors on the academic side? Are there teachers that you think back to now, or administrators during your time? What about those relationships that stand out?
Yeah, what I loved about Xavier is there was always that open door kind of atmosphere where you can go into a classroom and you can have conversations with teachers. I mean, a teacher that stands out, Mr. Garrity, in my senior year, I had a class with him, and I remember it was John Caraccio, who most of you guys know was sitting to my left, who was a character. And I remember just having, it was a conversation our senior year where it was an open conversation about life, and we figured things out on our own, and it was about growth and spiritual growth and understanding different concepts and not being so closed-minded to things. And it was a beautiful conversation, and it was an awesome class. But you think back to those memories and those moments that shape you moving forward, and I'm so appreciative of them.
Tim, I wasn't there. I was in the newspaper world at the time, but the guy that was there was Matt. So I'm going to, hand off the ball to him now to talk a little bit about what I believe, and I think everybody on the call, I would be surprised if it is one of the greatest runs, if not the greatest, in high school football history that you were part of. Matt, take it away. I think we're curious to hear about what those years meant to Tim now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tim, right, we are, fortunate enough to play with each other at North Branford. I'm a year ahead of you, and you join a really good football program, right? And I think, I certainly I was. There's definitely a lot of intimidation joining, at the time, Coach Marinen's program, and a lot of the coaches on the call right now. Talk a little bit about us of what it meant to be a Xavier football player right from the get. I know you had a very successful freshman year season, and the varsity was doing really well as well. So just take us through like those first couple of years of how it all went for you, and kind of the initial gut reaction you had to now joining that football team.
Well, the first thing I'll say is that I went to summer conditioning on day 2. I missed the first day because something was happening. I went to day 2, and that's when I got to meet the guys, my best friends, who I'm still best friends with right now. And I was so glad to be able to meet those guys and rally around them. So we were all kind of in the same boat of, we're about to be Xavier football players. We're kind of starstruck, like, let's do this together. Let's lean on each other. So we had that group, which was nice going into it. So we weren't alone doing it. But yeah, I could remember those summers going into my freshman year, and I'd see that pickup truck roll around the corner and Coach Marinen's just one arm on the wheel. And I would be like, my heart would start racing, and I would see Pat D'Amato walk in, and I'd be, that's my competition. I was starstruck, and I saw Alex Pace, and he was a starting quarterback at the time. And you just think about those memories of how special it truly was to me to be a Xavier football player, and the history. And I remember going to the state championship game with my father in 2005, and you guys winning. And it was a memory that I'm going to have with my dad forever. And I'm so glad that I was able to bring 3 more state championships to Xavier. Yeah.
Absolutely right. I totally understand, hearing Coach Marinen's truck going by, the freshman football field for you, and then we're up there. Couple, we joined the team, you join in, fall of 2009, and we had a really good varsity year, unfortunately, had a really tough loss, and you join in as a sophomore, and really, we had a tremendous amount of success from there. I don't know the exact number, but we went on to, win, two state championships, and then, 3, your senior year.
Yeah.
Talk about that run in general. Like, what was it, that you learned through all of that? And I'd love to hear, I'm sure folks on the call, like, how that success now might help you with some, trying to be successful in the NFL.
Yeah, I want to set this record straight, because on my resume, it says that I won 3 state championships, but by no means did I win the 3 of those by myself. Tim Boyle, because Tim Boyle was on the team, does not mean that we won those games and we won those championships. I know it looks good when you're talking about, who I am in my past, that I won 3, but you think about like Graham Stewart's and the Eric Mishkes and Pat D'Amato, Mike Mastriani. There's so many people. I was so lucky to be able to grow into my own person on the football field around guys who were really, really good, like, football players. Jovan, like all these guys. And my senior year, I took it a little bit more personal, and I wanted to, make it my team. And I wanted the seniors to feel like it was our state championship, because the past 2 years we were kind of, we weren't the lead dogs. And those first 2 years though, man, I mean, it was, splitting with Pat D'Amato was awesome. We fed off each other nicely. And obviously being around those teams, it teaches you, like I've said, it teaches you how to win. And you probably felt the same thing, but I remember my sophomore year and we got off the bus to go to play Notre Dame West Haven. It was, the big number 1 versus number 2 game.
Yeah.
And I remember walking off the bus and we were wearing like our white jerseys, and like you felt unstoppable because like this is Xavier rolling off the bus. Like we had that image, we had that persona of like, you don't mess with Xavier. And I love that. My senior year, when teams saw us rolling up, like, they got worried. And I loved that. I loved having that advantage over teams because we put the work in and we showed it week in and week out. But man, when I think about Xavier from a negative standpoint, the one loss, it still sticks with me. Hand High School at Palmer Field, it still sticks with me. But that's what kind of keeps me going. And I always talk to Matt Walsh about that, and he lets me know every once in a while. But my 4 years at Xavier, obviously freshman to senior year, were incredible. And I can't thank the coaches and the players enough because they made me. I did not at all make Xavier football a thing. I am definitely a product of a much bigger establishment.
Yeah, absolutely. We always had the target on the back, right? That's Xavier. Connecticut high school football is always, very, very, Xavier. Everyone wants to beat Xavier, right? And that's really, what it's all about. And so I totally understand where you're coming from there.
It's the best. That's the expectation. That's the standard that we set for ourselves, and that's why we were special. Because anything but a win was a disappointment, and that's how we held each other accountable, and we had really good teams and great leadership, thankfully, and we got the job done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim, I wanted to jump in there, Matt. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you as you were talking. I'm curious from the outsider's perspective, watching you guys and watching that Xavier run that I don't think it's going to be very hard to match for any future team in the state. What was the connecting trait between the players? You guys had so many different personalities, so many different names. Even for the outsider, I can still recall them. But was there a connecting trait that kind of made it all kind of fit together and really got the thing rolling and made it what it was?
Yeah, well, I think the cool thing about Xavier and the fact that all these guys are coming from different locations in the state is when you hang out, you're all together as a group. So I remember even being a sophomore, being invited into the senior locker room as a sophomore, and I had a locker next to some of the seniors, and I remember being like so starstruck. But it's the camaraderie, it's the relationships, and it was the love, honestly. And Coach Marinon, you always had that fearful distance from Coach Marinon because he was always so intimidating. But when it came down to it, he would ride or die for you. And Coach Marinon would stick up for us, and he was that honcho. We relied on him, and he came through for us every time. But there's always that fear of Coach Marinon. But at the end of the day, it was all love, and it always is love. And we genuinely loved each other. We cared for each other, and I think that showed on the field. But I think the connections and the hanging out and the getting to know each other and trusting each other off the field obviously helps us on the field always.
You guys still stay in close contact now with a lot of the guys from those years? Do you still?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Have to. You have to. You can't forget those memories. Those will last a lifetime for sure. Yeah.
And so you've had and you did have a ton of success all the way back to as you and I know, back down to North Branford, right? Like playing youth football and then join the Xavier football program. And you talk a lot about this is that your first, real sign of struggle wasn't not until your senior year, playing that game against Hand. Talk about, that feeling. And I know we've always spoke about that is like, what did that feeling, of losing that game and having that tough loss right there? How did that help you be successful, moving on into, the Division I ranks in college?
Yeah. So there's an interesting story about our senior year because we lost to Hand. And I remember being the senior and the captain and standing, being, hey, we're good. We're still in this thing. Let's not blink. It's a loss. We have all of our goals in front of us other than being undefeated. And we played Hell House later in the year. And if you guys remember that story, we scored 28 unanswered in the fourth quarter. And it was a crazy win. But I remember being down so big at halftime and I was like so down on myself, and my teammates rallied around me and they brought me up and they were making sure that I was good. So having that kind of relationship with my teammates, of me being able to support them and them supporting me, I think was so special. And, thinking about the wins my senior year, obviously being a senior, it's so much more special, and it's your team, and making sure the sophomores understand the expectations and the juniors are contributing, and making sure the seniors are holding guys accountable. But it's all a matter of being on the same page. And I like this quote. One of my teammates, Mercedes Lewis, told me this, but don't hate the guy across from you, love the guy next to you. And I think we had that mindset of not hating the guy across from us and wanting to beat them, but doing it because you love the dude next to you and you want to ride with him.
Great. And, Matt Connors, I think you have a couple questions lined up. Go for it.
Tim, as we said in the beginning to our attendees too, we have a Q&A going on, and we'll answer a lot of those when we're done with this little portion of the conversation. We'll save those for the last 15, 20 minutes of the chat. But I have to ask you this one. We got one from Bob Gear early on. He's asking, who is the better offensive coordinator, Greg Jascott or Nathaniel Hackett? So I didn't want to let that one go. And I figured, this would be the perfect time to ask that one.
Greg Jascott.
Yeah.
I love Coach Hackett. I've known him for a while, back when he recruited me at Syracuse, and now he's my offense coordinator here with the Packers. But I mean, Coach Jascott and I go way back, and we had some good runs.
Yeah, I didn't want Greg to delete that before we could ask it, so that's why we had to get it out there.
I'm actually going to jump in quick. I was laughing when I read the question from Bob. Thanks for that. I really appreciate it. And Tim, I appreciate the answer. But what's been great, kind of going through and as Timmy and I have gotten to know each other as adults in our adult life, it's nice now to we kind of can throw a lot of football things at each other. And I went out to Green Bay a couple of years ago, and I kind of sat there and tested Tim and made him answer a bunch of questions for me. And but it's certainly great to learn from him now as he's gone through all the different levels of football, and I certainly enjoy that. So Bob, thanks again for that question. And I don't know, Tim, I don't know if I'm Coach Hackett. I don't know if he'd like that answer too much, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sticking by my guy though.
Yeah. And so, you mentioned he recruited you at Syracuse, right? And so, here we are, right? Xavier student, Xavier athlete, you're fortunate enough to win 3 football state championships, or you and your teammates are fortunate enough to win. And now it's decision time, right? You ended up going to UConn. Talk a little bit about that process from the beginning. I think it definitely propelled you maybe a little bit for the NFL process, but
yeah,
how was the college recruiting process and how'd that all go?
Yeah, I mean, most of you guys know I was committed to actually Boston College, and right before signing day, some things kind of shuffled around, and I was able to kind of reopen my recruitment and ended up going to UConn. And I never really wanted to go to UConn until I committed, and I realized that I could be an in-state player and make a change at UConn, and let's get us back to a bowl game. But yeah, when there are 2 ways to look at my time at UConn, honestly, and that's how I view it. I could be very negative and pessimistic and not learn anything, or I can look back and tell myself that I learned 3 offenses, and the terminology in those offenses are used in the NFL. So I was exposed to NFL terminology, and I learned how to deal with losing and not being the guy. Being a highly recruited player in Connecticut, and winning these 3 state championships, and then you're a nobody, and then you're throwing interceptions, and then you're throwing more interceptions, and people are not happy with you. Like it was like an up and down so fast. But thank my family. I mean, I know I have to thank them again, but they've been there through everything, and they made sure that I was even keeled. But it taught me how to deal with adversity and how to deal with loss, and kind of pick myself up and keep moving forward. And when I look back at UConn, like I said, I was able to expose myself to great coaches, and offensive schemes, and the relationships. Obviously, less about relationships and making sure you're making memories. And I have great memories and great relationships. And I remember coming in the Houston game and playing well enough. I didn't play well by any means, but well enough to get us the win. And all the fans came on the field. I mean, you have memories like that that'll be with me forever. And I have no ill will for UConn, but it definitely, it was time for a change and wanted to transfer. So pulled the trigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And how, what was that process like? How'd you end up in, so, you go to UConn, and I think it was definitely, a tumultuous time, right? And I think it definitely has set you up for success now, right? I know one of the things you talk about a lot is, everything that you did at Xavier was great, but you didn't know how to lose at all, right? You just had that one loss and that was it. And then, UConn was a tough go, but I think, it definitely did help you set up for success in like tough times, especially now, right? I mean, 2020 has been the year of toughness for everyone.
Yeah.
And so what was it that, how does that all go down? How do you transfer to, Eastern Kentucky and what's that like going through that process again?
Yeah. So we played our bowl game in Tampa at the Tropicana Bowl against Marshall. And the next day I decided that I was going to transfer. So at that point, I reached out actually to Coach Marin, and he kind of let other college coaches know that I was going to be re-recruited. And at the time, I thought I could only go down and play FCS football because I was at FBS, and I thought I could transfer down right away and play. But there was some crazy NCAA rule that would allow me not to, and I didn't know that at the time. So I was only getting recruited by FCS schools, so 1AA schools. And it was between Towson and EKU. And I was actually on a cruise with my family, and I decided that I was going to be a colonel. And I was in touch with the head coach and the offensive coordinator. And I think the number one thing was being able to play. I wanted to have a positive football experience in college. I didn't want it to be losing. Obviously we had a cool experience with the 6-6 and going to the bowl game and having that, but I wanted to have the keys. I didn't want to look behind my shoulder and kind of just play my ball. And ended up going to EKU. I had to sit out my first year. And that year was awesome. I was able to learn so much about football. I pretty much turned into a GA, so an assistant for the coaches. So I was in every meeting. I was installing. I was watching film with them. So I kind of understood the next level of football, which was awesome. I was able to kind of get my mind right. I was acclimated to Kentucky at that point, and then played my 5th year there. And to be honest with you, I didn't even have a great year. I was the starting quarterback and threw more interceptions and touchdowns. I mean, that's kind of the story of my career, and I have to be accountable to that and kind of evaluate, what I was doing with the football, but I'm exactly where I want to be right now. And I wouldn't change anything, but my time at EKU was awesome. Like I said, more people, more offense. I was able to expose myself and broaden my horizons when it comes to life and being in the South and adjusting to people, learning a new offense. I mean, as you all know, I learned, a lot of offenses in a short amount of time. And I think it's only helped me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, from watching perspective back home, it was awesome to see, someone that I grew up with and played football all these years, go, have success at Xavier and then go to, UConn and then Eastern Kentucky. At what point was it where NFL interest started to happen? Or was there at any point where you said, what, like, this is it, like this senior year is like done and I'm going to go and join the real world?
Yeah.
How did that all happen?
I was actually back and forth with that. And my parents get a test. I was, do I look for jobs? Do I train super hard for pro day? Do I do a little bit of both? Do I have a backup plan? And I remember my mom being super adamant of being like, no, you have one opportunity to do this, dive into it. If it doesn't work, then you can land on your feet from there and you can go through that process. So, ended up going down to Washington, DC. I had an agent at that time. An agent reached out to me. Wanted to sign me, so I had an agent, and he said I had some interest because I was a big body. I still had a strong arm. It was just a matter of decision making and being on time and things that I can work on, things that I can adjust. And I trained in Washington D.C. and got my mind and my body right to have a great pro day because that's all I knew I was going to get. I was going to get 6 or 7 scouts at EKU's pro day, and I had to catch one eye, and that's kind of how I approached it. And thankfully, I did. I hit good numbers. I benched, which most quarterbacks don't do. So I wanted to kind of show them that I was competitive. I wanted to show them I could bench and then, 30 minutes later go throw, which is tough to do. But I just wanted to make sure that I grabbed one guy's attention, and thankfully the Packers did. And here I am.
Yeah. And, before we get into the Packers in a second, we do have a question from the crowd. Who was your roughest opponent in the AAC, and where in that conference did you enjoy going to the most?
The roughest opponent would probably be Central Florida. They were brutal. And I don't know if that's a combination of the fans being brutal. I remember like a little 6-year-old girl telling us to go somewhere that was inappropriate. And like her mother and father were like, again, like right behind her getting after us. So I was like, wow, this is interesting. A place that I liked playing was Temple because we got to play where the Eagles play. So that was kind of cool, just being in an NFL stadium and feeling that environment. Yeah, I'd say the hardest to play, honestly, my freshman year, we got absolutely whooped 62-17 by Central Florida when they had Blake Bortles and Storm Johnson and Brashad Perriman, all these studs who are, some of them are still in the league, but that kind of was like a wow culture shock. Like these guys are pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Xavier, we went through the, your UConn experience in Eastern Kentucky, and that leads us right into, pretty much April of 2018, right? So the NFL draft and experiences about all of that. Did you think you were going to possibly get drafted, or were you looking to become, expecting that call as an undrafted free agent right in 2018?
I knew I was not going to get drafted based off of my numbers in college, and I had to just that's kind of a part of it, and I set myself up for that, so I knew that. But my agent told me that I had a really good chance of being an undrafted free agent, which means I didn't even understand what that meant. But it means that you're signing to the team. You just don't get any signing bonus money of being a draft pick. So I was still on the 90-man roster. And I was the 4th string quarterback coming in with Deshaun Kaiser, Brett Hundley, and obviously Aaron Rodgers. And at that point, I was just swimming, honestly. But that whole kind of draft experience is weird because teams call you for undrafted free agency like midway through the 7th round as the draft is closing up. So they try to get, a jump on getting these undrafted free agents on other teams because all these calls go out and it's a mad race after the draft to trying to sign these guys. So the Packers, thankfully reached out midway through the 7th round. So I kind of already had my agreement with the Packers that I was going to go play there. And actually after the draft, the Raiders and the Browns called because they wanted to sign me to an undrafted free agency as well. But at that time, I already kind of told the Packers I was coming. And I mean, who wouldn't want to play behind Aaron Rodgers?
Tim, I remember that video of you telling your mom and your family out on the deck in April. Yeah. And I wonder if you could take us inside that moment. A lot of the people listening got to watch you play when you were at Xavier, were your friends, your teammate, have rooted for you all along the way. I think that was a pretty special moment. What's going through your head? And your mom told you to go for this, she encouraged you to go through it. Yeah. Take us through that chance to share that with your family.
Well, I want to start by saying that genuinely, I still feel the same emotion now of like, I'm a small town kid from Middlefield, Connecticut, right? Like Matt, you know me as like a little dweeb from Middlefield.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, but
we have like 6,000 people in our hometown.
But now I'm playing in the NFL and I'm living my dream out, and I'm so blessed. Like, it genuinely blows my mind that I'm in this position because, and it genuinely is only taken just my determination, and it's a lot of support, but I haven't given up on myself, which I'm proud of, but like having that family there on that day when I came back from finding out that I was going to be a Packer, and I called my dad on the phone, didn't tell him which team. I told him I was going to tell him in person. So I had all these people at my place, at my house in Middlefield. I think Coach Jaska was there, and I made the announcement to everyone, and it was kind of just like a relief / like, here I am. Like, this is cool. Like, it's cool for me even now. Like, I'm playing for the Green Bay Packers. I remember, it's crazy. It genuinely is. I'm still kind of starstruck being around the guys, and it's just, I played North Branford youth football with Matt DeCoyer, and he's, like, we had fun, and I'm a regular dude, and I'm just living my dream out, and I'm having fun doing it, and I'm making memories. But I remember having a moment that night with my family. We were in the office of our house, and I was with my mom and my dad. We called my sisters, and I like kind of just broke down. We all kind of just teared up, and we were like, this is the culmination of everyone kind of just sucking up the crappy years at UConn and dealing with my emotions of being high and low, and obviously having the success at Xavier. But it was just it was a weird ride, and it didn't go as planned, but we stuck, we stayed to the plan, and here I am. And it's a credit to my family, and we had that moment together, and I wouldn't be here without my best friends, my family. I mean, this is my coaches, this is a group effort. You're looking at a group effort right now.
And now now you're working alongside Aaron Rodgers, taking coin tosses.
Yeah.
Before we jump to the Q&A, Tim, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about that relationship with Rodgers. We see it from the outside. You wore his jersey back a few years. I know you're soaking up all that knowledge from him like a sponge. Can you kind of give us an inside perspective on what working with Aaron Rodgers is like and what you're trying to take from him as the younger guy?
Yeah. Taking from him from a physical standpoint is tough because he's an alien. He's not from this planet. And I mean that with like every ounce of me. He's not from this planet. What I see, that man, he's a grown man. He's 37 years old and he throws the ball better than I do, and I'm 26. Like, he's just like, he's built different. And it's awesome to be around it because he approaches everything the same way every week. He's like a true professional. It doesn't matter who we're playing. If he knows we're probably going to beat him, if it's going to be a tough game, it's all the same and it's all really good. So physically, I'm able to pick his brain of what he sees and how he, it's all about eye placement in the NFL. I mean, defenses are so clued in on quarterback's eyes. So, kind of feeling what he does versus what I do and trying to kind of incorporate that into my game is obviously something. But the number one thing I'll say about Aaron, obviously my rookie year, I was a rookie and I was kind of, taking a back seat and trying to learn and understand. Last year, I'm a fresh backup quarterback. So I come out of my shell a little bit. I start chiming in. But this year, I mean, our friendship has blossomed, and I can honestly tell him, like I could say to you guys, he's one of my best friends on the team, and I view him as an older brother. And we talk about a lot of things other than football, life, relationships, everything that's going on in life, and we talk to each other, and we have that friendship, which is awesome. He trusts me, which is awesome. Obviously, trust him. But being around him has helped me tremendously. My game since being in Green Bay has gone through the roof, and it's just because of Aaron Rodgers and being around him. And I mean, everyone knows the saying, you're a product of your environment. And you want to surround yourself with the right people. I mean, I'm in a great spot right now, and the coaching staff I have right now is incredible. I mean, I really am in the perfect spot. And, my goal is to keep it.
Awesome. And, with that being said, right, you play 19 season. I remember seeing you on Hard Knocks, I think, when you were playing the Raiders in a preseason game. Like that was awesome. And then we go into 2020, right? And it's nobody really knows what's going to happen. And, you guys weren't, you had a nice deep playoff run last season, and then COVID hits. Take us through what everything has been like this year with, the NFL. I know you and I were talking offline about the restrictions and everything. Just take everyone on the call through what a COVID NFL season has been like.
Yeah, it was weird. Let me just say it was weird. Let me get that off my chest. It was weird because all these players, think about all the players in the NFL were on one phone call with like 4 executives. So you can imagine all these personalities like chiming in, trying to get answers. And it was kind of a cluster a little bit. So just understanding from report dates to drug testing, like all these questions had to be answered. And are we going to have OTAs? Are we going to stay home? I mean, it was just like, you have no clue. And they finally gave us an answer. But honestly, our coaching staff with the Packers handled it wonderfully. They sent us our iPads, which I'm on right now. They put all of our installs. We had Zoom calls every day. I mean, we made sure that we were getting after it. And we obviously knew that we had a great team, obviously going to the NFC Championship the year before. And we knew that we had the opportunity. We just had to have a great offseason. And we needed to make sure that we took advantage of these Zoom calls while other teams weren't. So when we reported, we hit the ground running, and the rest is history. Finished 13-3 with the first round bye, and we can't wait to watch these playoff games this week and see what we got next.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you've definitely had some good viral moments this year on the field. I mean, how many coin tosses are you on for right now?
Oof. I mean, I think I don't know exactly what week, but it was after the Saints game. I started doing coin tosses, and that was Coach LaFleur pulled me aside and asked me to do that, which was pretty cool. Just, he wanted someone out there who was, intelligent enough to make sure that we were doing the right thing in the coin toss. So that was cool for him to ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we wish you all the best, and, really appreciate you jumping on in. I know going to kick it over to Greg Jascott right now. We have a ton of questions lined up for you. So Greg, go ahead and ask some of the ones that you got.
I got a couple good ones. The first, I'm going to go with the less serious one first. It's from Marcus Fazzino. I'm actually I'm gonna edit his question slightly. His original question read, "Can you throw a better Hail Mary than Aaron Rodgers?"
No.
That's fine. I'm gonna change his question. If you were to throw a Hail Mary, would you rather have Devontae Adams or Marcus Fazzino catching the football for you?
Devontae Adams every day and twice on Sunday.
No, Marcus was around quite a bit this spring and summer, and I got to watch him run some.
I want to shout out Marcus Fazzino.
Yeah.
He's been a great friend. He came every day to Xavier, that field, and threw with me and ran with me and snapped the football for me. He grinded for me, and he definitely
certainly did.
Shout out Marcus.
We got to watch him run some deep post routes several times. And, questionable deep post routes, but no, Marcus, thanks for the question. And then the second question is actually from our headmaster, and he's Mr. Eustace. Dave's been here for 3+ years, and he's seen you quite a bit. A lot of us in the building know that you come back quite often, and you give back in the amount of time you spend in the building with the kids. And just to add to that question, I personally have asked you to go out and work with the quarterbacks, and you spent 2 hours out there with them as opposed to half hour, 20 minutes. Dave wants to know, are there other players in the NFL that kind of talk about that openly, about how they go back to their high schools and are still part of those communities? Is that something that's common?
Yeah, and those conversations happen with smaller guys like myself, like a fourth receiver, guys who have impacts on their community back home, who have a voice, but aren't going to be swamped by. People like Aaron can't do it, unfortunately, because Aaron's too high profile of an athlete. But I think guys who, going back and giving back to the game of football and back to my high school is a no-brainer for me. I want to help the quarterbacks in any regard, in any sport, in any team, but to come back and talk to, obviously, you guys and your quarterbacks and make sure that, I'm passing along any type of information that they can take from me and apply to their game is, I'd be silly not to be doing that.
And then this was an early question. The Xavier motto, "Be a man," it's kind of spoken about quite a bit. How has that helped you achieve your goals? Whether it was throughout your time at Xavier or when you're in college, or throughout the transfer and even your time in the NFL, how has that helped you?
Yeah, I think that has allowed me to stand my ground and be who I am. And I don't think I've changed who I am. And I've always put my family first. I want to make sure that everyone's taken care of, and I want to make sure that I am known for working hard. And I want people to know that I work hard. And I think the big thing, I love Xavier so much, honestly, and coming back is like such a joy to me because all the people are so happy to see me. But when you say be a man like Christ, genuinely, that when I think of that, it reminds me of do your job. And we talked about that. It was when I was at Xavier's, do your job and be accountable and do the best you can. And that's what it comes down to. And that's carried with me in every aspect of my life. And I'm obviously so thankful for that.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to throw it over. It looks like, I think, to Matt Conyers.
Hey, Tim, we got a question from a freshman, class of 2024 here. Big football fan. Unfortunately, he roots for the wrong team in the Cowboys, but he wants to know what was your welcome to the NFL moment? That's Jack Larkin's question for you.
That's a great question. My rookie year, we have practice inside of our stadium. It's called Family Night. And it's 80,000 people for one practice inside of Lambeau. And all the position groups get introduced and they all run out onto the field. And obviously the quarterbacks are last because we have Aaron Rodgers, and the last people go for it because they want the biggest applause. And we ran out there and like my whole body was shaking. People were roaring, and it wasn't even for me. I was just a part of the moment. It was for Aaron, obviously, but that was kind of like the wow. I'm about to have a practice in front of 80,000 people, and they're like watching the quarterbacks because they want to watch Aaron. So I'm taking it all in. That was kind of my cool moment.
Awesome. And we have another question here. This is a really good one, a throwback as well, from Tom Wilcox, class of 74. Do your coaches ever refer to the infamous Ice Bowl game as a way to get the Packers mentally prepared for the postseason?
Tom, it's a great question. The answer is yes. We don't necessarily talk about the Ice Bowl, but we in the Packers organization are very, very happy when we see cold temperatures and snowy conditions, because that is 1000% an advantage for us. And we know it's an advantage for us. And we mentally know that other teams don't want to come in here and play in freezing cold conditions, and making sure that, we have the right cleats on. But whenever it's super cold, we want to go practice outside. We want to be exposed to that, because we know if we do all the right things like we've done this year, and the NFC Championship has to run through Lambeau this year, and it's going to be cold, it's going to be windy, it's going to be snowy, and we're going to be ready for it. And I hope other teams aren't.
I'm going to hop in quick. This is from Frank Marsili. Frank, this is a great question. Tim, you mentioned the chemistry and love on the Xavier teams that you played on. And as a college and now professional, do you feel that same team bond and chemistry with your teammates? And Frank says, watching the Packers team now, it seems like that is a pretty close-knit group.
Yes, with the Packers, we love each other. And we were actually just talking about that as a team, and just we genuinely do have something special. And most NFL locker rooms are not like that. It's not divided, but it's, let me look out for me, because this is my money, this is my career, this is food on the table for my family. But we genuinely love each other. We care about each other. We're happy for each other when we succeed. There's no bad dudes in the locker room. We all love each other, honestly. And we do a lot of cool team activities in the building, making sure that we're, intermixing the offense and defense and special teams. And we all know each other, and we're all comfortable with each other. And I think that's huge for any team. Just having that comfort and knowing who you're playing for is critical. It's a good question.
Jeff Vicenti, who's been a huge help, has a question. He's on the Xavier Alumni Association committee as well. Take us through, what is a typical week like in the NFL? How many hours are you working out, meetings, film?
Yeah. I'll give you the week schedule. So we're going to start with Sundays. So Sunday is game day. Monday, we come in at like 11 o'clock for a flush lift. So we lift, and then we eat a little lunch, and then we have meetings. And the meetings are watching the game and putting that game that we just played to bed. So we work out, we kind of run a little bit, get the lactic acid out. We have meetings, we put the game to bed, we have dinner, and then we do a little scout team review of the team we're about to play. And then Tuesdays are our day off physically, mentally. It's our biggest day. I'm watching the most film most of the time on Tuesdays, and I go in for a workout just to kind of get my body, kind of keep it acclimated. So I work out Tuesday, and it's my physical off day. So I have no meetings, no nothing, just watching film, getting acquainted with the defense. Wednesday is our big work day. So I'm in there from 7:30 to 5:30, and then I come home and I have to study what I just learned, because it's a new offense every week and we have to adjust to it. So I come home and I study. Thursday, another long day, same hours. I come home, I have to study, because on Wednesdays we implement most of the game plan. On Thursdays it's third down. On Friday it's red zone, and then Saturdays is more of a walkthrough kind of tempo, and then play the game on Sunday. But it's definitely it's demanding, but I love it, and it's my job. I don't have homework to do at night anymore. It's football now. I'm able to dive into football, and I don't work a day in my life, honestly. I get to watch film of other great quarterbacks, and I get to break down defenses. So I'm not really working, in my opinion.
Yeah. So when I selected for us to do this on Tuesday, because it's your off day, it really, isn't a real off day. There you go.
Kind of.
Tim, I got a couple for you. Coach Cresamano, Don Cresamano is with us tonight. Coach Cress it's fun. Tim and I were actually talking about this earlier. How different is this week's preparation, given that you have a bye? And is it different from what your normal week would look like, especially since you don't know your opponent yet?
Yeah. This week is strictly about getting our mind and body right. And Aaron told us after the game, start picturing, what it's going to feel like to win games in the playoffs at home, and let's start visualizing this and speaking it into existence. But it's been an interesting week, because we're off a few days, but we're going to have a few just regular, good on good practices on Thursday and Friday. But I think we're going to have the whole weekend off to just relax. And then once we find out on Sunday who we have, and we'll start game planning and getting ready for them. But this week is just about letting our bodies recover, and kind of just relaxing and letting our other NFC teams lose, hopefully.
Then the other question is, we don't have a name on this one, but when a play is called, how do you change the route calls for your receivers at the line of scrimmage? And I know there's probably a lot that goes into that, so give us a basic version, if you will.
Yeah, so the basic version is there's two ways to do it, and it's verbal and signal. And we have to, as quarterbacks, determine if it's loud enough to verbal, because you don't want it quiet to verbal, because then the defense will hear you, and then they can go back and watch it, and they can match the two. So if it's loud enough where you think the defense is not going to hear it, you can verbal it. But most of the time, it's like a quick signal. So if you guys watch Aaron on game day, he'll give a quick little signal. And we teach that. I mean, in practice, Aaron's doing it all the time and making sure that guys are dialed in and looking back at the quarterback at all times, because Aaron can do whatever he wants at the line of scrimmage. I would say the safest way is to signal, but Aaron's definitely gone up there, and you guys have probably heard him say some funny words this year in some of the games, but he definitely is up there, saying some fun stuff, which is in our offense. But I mean, that's part of the game, just the communication part.
How different was it this year with the majority of your games probably had no fans? I mean, was that drastically different with the communication piece?
Huge. From what you guys hear on the TV at home is much louder than what it is in the stadium. You can hear the other players on the other sideline clapping when they get a first down. Like it's back to like youth football. It's kind of strange. But it definitely affects communication, and it affects our cadence against the defense. We can use it, draw them off sides, get free plays. I mean, Aaron and I talk about that every week. And if it shows up on tape a lot, then obviously we'll do it a lot more. But that's definitely an advantage offense with no noise, in my opinion. On third down, it's quiet too, which is nice.
Yeah.
Tim, we've got a question here from a name you'll recognize, and I would want to tell everybody he was also the first guy into the chat. He actually came in earlier when we were still practicing. But Coach Bischoff has a question for you. Between 2005 and your graduation, Xavier put 3 graduates in the NFL: Amari, Will, and you. How would you explain that?
Coach Bischoff, first of all, great to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. How do you do that? That's a big question. How do you do that? I think that you have consistency, number one, and I think the Xavier football program had consistency, obviously with the leader at the helm. But I'm going to talk about it again, just the mindset. I mean, 2005, you look at that team, and they were super talented, and Amari was obviously the standout player. And I remember watching the highlight tape of Amari Spivey, and I used to get butterflies in my stomach because I was going to play there, and that was a cool time for me. Will's a great dude. I was able to obviously be around him a little bit, but Will's always been a freak. I know anyone who knows Will Tye just knows that as a tight end, when he played at Stony Brook, he was returning punts, which doesn't make sense. He's just a natural freak, and the fact that Xavier was able to get him and develop him and turn him into a great player again shows the consistency of the program. And then, like I said, with me, it's thankfully I'm a local kid. I knew about Xavier. I was comfortable with Xavier. I was able to meet a lot of great people. But when I think about my time at Xavier, obviously I think about winning, but it's all about the surrounding parts. It really is. I mean, Coach Bischoff, you're a huge reason. My sophomore year having a huge impact on me. I remember you pulling me aside after the Wesleyan camp, and my finger was jammed because I hit it on a helmet earlier in that camp, and you were like, "You're going to play this year. I hope you know that. Like you're going to be playing a little bit." And I remember going home, and I couldn't be happier. So those memories and kind of feeling the emotion of those is what keeps me going, and then that's the magic of football and sports.
This is a really good one, and Tim, one you and I joked about a little bit, but it's actually from an anonymous attendee. But with your tendency to step forward with taking snap in the victory formation, are you positive in net yardage this year? And I think everyone on the call wants to know about if that was done on purpose or not.
Am I positive? Yes. No, I'm not positive. The NFL is brutal when it comes to taking these. Absolutely brutal. So even if I get a net 0 yardage, then yes, I do it on purpose. Because at the end of the day, we have a hard-fought game, and we have all these rushing yards, and then you want the backup quarterback going in there and taking away 4 or 5 yards from the rushing total. That's just disrespectful. So I can at least hold up my end of the deal and try to get at least 0 yards so we have the original stats. But some teams don't like it. Some teams don't really care, but I'm going to keep doing my thing.
Awesome. And another one here from, I believe, Sebastian Giuliano, the former mayor of Middletown. I believe that you were the winning quarterback at the last Xavier Middletown Thanksgiving Day game. What did that game mean, and what was it like playing for a city championship?
I love that game. I wish that game was back. And if there's ever a conversation about bringing that game back, you guys give me a call, because I will stand up and yeah, I want that game back. Just the environment was incredible. The setting, being at Wesleyan, being on that field and that history of that field, and the people came out on Thanksgiving Day morning and watched football. I mean, there was nothing better. And I remember, thankfully, we were able to win all 3 games, and I was able to play well in most of the games. But you just think about the excitement of people being on the fence and being in the stands. And there's 4,000 or 5,000 people there. I mean, it was incredible. I missed those Thanksgiving Day games, but those were special. Just knowing that you were able to go, beat a good Middletown team most of the time and go eat some turkey after.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we have a time for a couple more questions. We do want to be definitely cognizant of your time. You got a
Please, I'm here. Ask away.
Yeah, I'll take one. Gary out in California. Gary, thanks for the question. Tim, who besides Aaron Rodgers in the league do you admire as a quarterback? He asked that you don't say Tom Brady, so I guess we want to hear someone besides Tom Brady.
Yeah. I grew up a Patriots fan, so I have no shame in saying that I was obviously a Tom Brady fan. It's funny. I mean, now that they're in the NFC, I kind of view it as he's in my way of winning a Super Bowl. So I'm not a huge diehard Tom Brady fan anymore. But someone that I love watching, and he's just a good dude, is Phillip Rivers. And if you watch Phillip Rivers, he's not the most talented because he's older and his arm angle is so low, but his anticipation skills are through the roof. And as a quarterback who, when you try to anticipate things, when you watch that and you understand where guys are going to be and how he does it, and he talks so much smack, but he never swears. I just love his personality. He's got a big family. He's a big talker and he plays well. And I actually can't wait to watch his playoff game this weekend.
Let's see here. We've got a bunch lined up.
Matt, I'll jump in.
Go for it. Yeah.
Tim, this one's been sitting in there. It was an early question. It's from Pedro Delgado Jr. He says, now that you're in the playoffs, and I being a former sports writer, I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer this, but he asked, how would it feel for you to play in the Super Bowl coming from Xavier and representing Xavier? So maybe a bigger question, if you're not superstitious, is just how does it feel to be representing Xavier in the playoffs and the quest for the Super Bowl?
I honestly love it. I do. I love talking about Xavier. I mean, I don't come by Xavier because it's a hassle. I genuinely love being back in the halls and seeing the familiar faces. I love Xavier. And representing Xavier will always be a treasure of mine, and having that responsibility attached to me with such honor. And I want to make sure that I represent Xavier the right way. And I think about that all the time. I think about how I represent my family, EKU, UConn. I want to make sure that I'm doing it the right way, and there are no cracks in the foundation. But obviously, playing in the Super Bowl would be incredible. I mean, that's a dream come true. That's the next thing I told people after I told them when I was little that I want to play in the NFL. I want to go win a Super Bowl, obviously. And, being able to be in a good spot to do that, like I said, 1 week at a time, but it's always fun to dream.
Yeah. Well, we certainly, wish you the best of luck, and, really appreciate you jumping on in here and doing this. I personally, we go back a long way, so really appreciate, doing the back and forth and setting all this up, on behalf of myself and the rest of the Xavier community and also the Alumni Association. Thank you, and thank you for everyone for jumping on in. And, with that being said, we'll go and let you get back to your film study, and, hopefully go and we'll see you down in Tampa soon. So we'll see you at the Super Bowl, and good luck with everything. All right, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me on, and 2021 is a new year. Let's all spread love and positivity, and let's get the job done. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Tim. Really appreciate your time, man.
Thanks so much, Tim.